Hey everyone, big news. It's time for a language revolution. When we think of language, we usually think of verbal language. I'm speaking to you with language. But language is anything that's feeding us information. So an image can be a language, a feeling is a type of language. And there are so many forms of language, other than verbal, that we're not even coming close to tapping the full potential of. The deepest and most innate form of communication is energetic communication. Einstein proved with E equals mc squared that all things are energy. Even matter is just energy within a form. And everything has its own unique vibration to it. I vibrate, you vibrate, everything in existence, the tree vibrates, even inanimate objects. Just by nature of the way the energy is condensed down into this form, it has a vibration. And all of these vibrations are interacting constantly. It's a very subtle form of communication, but it's very powerful, and it tells us a lot about the world around us, about how people are feeling, about what else is going on outside of what we may normally think of as important if we're fixated just on verbal language. Recent studies even show that our hearts produce an electromagnetic field that can be measured by scientific equipment from several feet away. So this is just one small piece of evidence that indicates to us that we're interconnected and that we're touching everything and that we're communicating on these levels. The next level of communication is art forms. Music, dance, visual art, the list goes on and on. The arts allow us to express things in a form that's more specific than energy, but not specific in the same way that verbal language is. It allows you to express something very specific in its own way, but it's its own unique language. So you can say things through the arts that you can't say with verbal language, and vice versa. I'm not going to say, hey, it's good to see you, you want to get a coffee sometime, through music. But there are definitely other things that playing music is a much better form of expression for. Let's take the classic example. Someone asks you, how are you doing? And you can say, good, or fine, or pretty good, and pretty much you're not saying anything. You're really not expressing very clearly how you're feeling, because that's a very complex thing. But what if instead someone says, how are you doing? You go, well, what gives you some idea? Or what if, how are you doing? And although what I've just played, you're not going to be able to verbalize exactly what I'm thinking, in some ways you get a better idea. Dance, we can do the same thing. How are you feeling? You just hit something. Or like, on the violin, how are you feeling? So the arts are very valuable tools for actually expressing things much more effectively sometimes. Verbal language is still extremely valuable because we're able to take a concept, take an idea, take an object, and wrap it up within a series of sounds that we all kind of agree upon that this will mean this. I'm able to talk to you about these things. So by being able to articulate through verbal language, we're able to give a lot of focus to what we're experiencing. The problem is that we have this addiction to verbal language, and it oftentimes inhibits us from really fully tapping into some of these other forms. I propose the most effective way of communicating, ultimately, is to start at the deepest level, which is energetic communication. Start to feel into what everyone else is feeling, what everything else in the universe, what else is happening in the world around us. And then to move up the next layer into the arts and start to describe with the energy we're feeling through artistic expression. It's amazing being in groups of artists. Sometimes I'll see someone dancing and that inspires me to play something, and then people will tell me what I'm playing inspired them to paint something, and it's amazing. We can all start to flesh out something through the art forms. Then as what we're experiencing starts to come into more form and more clarity through the art, then by speaking about it, we're able to give much more focus and much more clarity to what we're experiencing. There's so much more depth to what we're talking about because we've first felt into the energy of it, then we've expressed it through words, and now we're talking about it. And so the conversation naturally becomes much more meaningful because we're not just talking on the surface level all the time just to fill the space, just to be talking. We're actually tuning into what's really important in the moment and then expressing that, using all the tools available to us to do the very best we can with it. And amazing things can happen as we start to communicate in this new way. I think we can radically change the way that we collectively function together and the way we interact with each other by changing the way that we communicate with each other. So yeah, I think it's time for a language revolution, a time where we completely reconceptualize the way we think about language and about communication and learn to communicate with each other much more effectively. I'd like to open this discussion up to all of you watching this video to leave comments below with your thoughts or send me ideas that you have based on this. And I wanted to ask you the question, what form of nonverbal communication do you feel that you have a natural ability for or that you would like to cultivate? So this idea is one of the first concepts that I want to open up to communication of any form. And I really hope to hear from you.